Hey there, welcome to week. I couldn't believe it when I looked at the book. I was like, 33? What? So we are working with the Chakra Wisdom Oracle Toolkit. We are in week 33 of our journey, which is actually the third week in the fifth chakra. Now, if you listen to some of the earlier recordings, then you know I talked about how in the chakra, I just closed the book, that's okay. In the chakra itself, we have the seventh chakra, but within, and this is kind of a more advanced concept that I introduced with the Oracle deck that we're working with. And also it's really in the How to Read the Cards for Yourself and Others book, but I am giving you a little taste of that. So we have the seven chakras that we work with, right? Then we are in the fifth chakra, which spans 7 weeks because there's 7 fables here. Now we're in the third week. What does that mean? So I want you to bear with me. I want you to drop your shoulders and I want you to let go of your brain. Just don't try to follow me. Just intuitively tap into what I'm saying. One of the things that happens when we are doing any kind of intuitive work, and this is where I find we get into trouble, is that we try to understand it with our brain, and our brain is not going to understand it. So come back into the state, just take a breath, center yourself inside your own wisdom. We're in the fifth chakra, we're in the third week. That means the third week has the essence of the third chakra around it. So in that fifth chakra, we're actually looking at the energy of the third chakra, which is color yellow, interestingly. So what I want to say to all of you is that as you're looking at this, and I'm going to pull out the card, it's kind of like, I'm just going to look for it. Here it is. It's so funny. It like flipped to week 22. Now it's flipping to week 33. It's kind of like, okay. So this week we're going to talk about the workaholic. And as I mentioned, the fables actually came to me after a near-death experience. So if you are jumping in here, you can go back to the beginning and kind of learn some of this stuff. And if you've been with me all along, ooh, you are making it happen. All right, so let's take a look at the workaholic card. And the card itself, I want to remind you that's the key word on this card. It's about the fable of Brad Blueberry. So the name of the fable itself is Brad Blueberry. Now, technically, there is no blue food. When you really think about it, the only blue food is blueberries. So there really is no blue food that exists. And so what's very interesting is that Blueberry's an artist and he keeps painting, and he doesn't take a break. And what that is it's that frantic need to create before his time runs out and he becomes a raisin. That's part of the fable. So a couple things I want to say about this, because I did talk about that in last week's conversation, where workaholism can be a form of isolation. So I want you to notice that as we get up into the fifth, sixth, and seventh chakra, we're moving into spiritual concepts. Stay with me. Don't try to understand me. Drop your shoulders, breathe, and step into your intuitive wisdom right now. As we step into this fifth chakra, we are in what is often called the more spiritual chakras. Now, that doesn't mean the others are not spiritual, but we're actually leaving the realm of our grounded understanding. So the thing to keep in mind here is that there is a natural split that happens. And the quote from the actual angel who brought me the fable was, "While I worked, my life happened." And then the key word was workaholic. And the actual fable is Brad Blueberry. So I want you to start to get a rhythm that this is about Brad Blueberry, right? The quote about Brad is, "While I worked, my life happened." That's the wisdom, that's the spirit of that fable. And then the word workaholic. Now, workaholic to all of us can have a very particular meaning. You know, just like an alcoholic, it's something that begins as a fun thing, and our dependence on it grows and grows and grows. And it grows not because we love it so much, but because over time, the joy becomes sucked out of it because that's all we do. And so as it's like anything else, when you are in a tunnel vision, you lose sight of the actual, I want to say, journey. So it brings back that the point of the journey is not necessarily the destination. It's to be present along the way. And so when we look at Brad Blueberry, the fable of, we really look at the importance of taking a step back. And I think I shared this in one of the earlier, one of the other two videos that I talked about with this particular journey of the fifth chakra, which is the idea that, you know, I didn't know where my next idea was coming from. And I was walking through the conference at VidCon, and all of a sudden I saw the numbers and it hit me. So as I say that to you, it becomes important that we look at that the space between the notes is the music. It's not the notes. That means nothing. It's the it's the space that we go into the next state that it makes a difference. So the actual creativity doesn't happen here or here. It's actually happening in the ether of the magic of what we've sent out to the universe and the concepts that come back to us. So when we look at Workaholic, and actually the message of the week, which I think is so vital, it says, more doesn't necessarily mean better. Are you trying to multitask and therefore not giving your full attention and energy to any one thing? To get that true personal expression through the fifth chakra, stillness and focus is needed. A workaholic rushes to complete tasks at the expense of all else, including good work. Now, something that's important in this particular thing, and I want to underline it, the thing of multitasking. And I think that it's kind of an important thing to underline, that I can't tell you how many people I knew, especially in Hollywood, where people would be like, oh, I've got this one screenplay and I'm doing it with this and I've got this going. And they had so many projects going, I couldn't even keep it straight. And at the end of the day, most of the people who had so many things going never accomplished any of the so many things, because it just became, I've got to finish, I've got to finish, I've got to finish. And that's where the energy goes from, I'm interested in this, to I've got to finish. And you could see where the workaholic becomes frantic. And there's a franticness to workaholism, just like there's alcoholism or, shopaholic, because what happens is it's the constant search of making your day or your life work around what that's going to be for you. So in other words, I've got to make space to drink and it's going to have to fit into this schedule. So all of a sudden that becomes important. Or creating that screenplay. It becomes super important to fit it in wherever you can, but not the quality. You're not working on quality. You're working on finishing something that really doesn't have the traction that it had. And so that's what this is really about. It is about looking at what point have I slipped from my focus on something to fear. And why do we get fearful? See, we get fearful because it's like, what if that doesn't work? I put all my eggs in it. I got to get another basket. And pretty soon you have 12 baskets around and nothing ever really happens. And one of the things that this journey has really, I feel it's kind of like a, if you will, it's a rite of passage, because not only is this work week 33, and we look at, Christ age as 33, this is a turning point where you are willing or not to, really put yourself out there. And as they say, in story writing, they say you take the reader and you hold them up against the wall for the whole book, and then you let them go. Because that's kind of like grab them, hold them, and then let them go and have that life experience. So what we're talking about here is your journey as Brad Blueberry. And so I encourage you to read the fable, because one of the things that, and you notice I think it was the first week I read the fable, maybe, or maybe I didn't, but I stopped reading it. And part of the reason is because I want you to experience the fable. I want you to read it and let it come to life in your mind, because the way you bring something to life is going to be the way you interpret it. And that's going to have everything to do with how you experience things. So what you're hearing now, drop your shoulders. Don't try to follow me. What you're hearing right now from me is some different noise that I'm making, different ideas that I'm bringing to you. That doesn't mean they're here. And it doesn't mean, no, it's like, here we go, yawning. And it doesn't mean necessarily that it's going to strike you in the way I'm sharing. I'm just giving you another perspective. So a couple things I want to say about that. Let's see. The right work, when we talk about right work, it is really the right work aligns with your wounding. It has to do with the identification of helping people at the level they need help to heal. And really the other thing that happens here is we really look here, and this is a week about looking at your undeveloped or underdeveloped aspects that you need to develop to become the person that can focus and have a life, and yet allow the universe to do the part between the notes. Allow the universe to take you on that journey. So when we look at, and obviously this is the first impression here, this entire week is about the value of having some special pursuit in your life. Whatever it is, if it's to be a mom or a dad, if it's to be a landscaper, if it's to build furniture, if it's to sing or write a book, whatever that special pursuit is for you, it's more about coming from your soul self than trying to produce something that will make you famous. Because the truth is that the idea of making you famous, the true fame comes through the commitment and the inner commitment to you as an artist and your work. Fleeting fame is when you get that limelight and then you don't know how to handle it because it's not based on anything. You know, and even and at this particular taping, I mean, even when we look at the Kardashian family and the way they've built their empire, whether you like them or not isn't the point. It is based on something. It's based on a vision that Kris Kardashian created. And, you know, when we look at that, when we look at who they are and who they've become, you know, what's important here is that it goes back to, you know, it's almost like the quote here. It says, while I worked, my life happened. And what we're watching with the Kardashian family really is we're looking at their life happening. We're looking at the sounds between the notes. We're not necessarily seeing the stuff that's being created on the other side. We're ripping back the curtain and seeing their life happening. Now that's an important thing because like it or hate it, whatever you feel, we're seeing life happening. So that's a very important, again, I want to underline it, that what they create is outside of life that they live. So that becomes another thing too. Let's see. I wanted to just see. Okay. So it says, and I want to bring you to this as I wrap up. This week, set your intention to determine what you'd like to express to the world before you embark on the task. What would you like to express to the world? And I'm going to give you a little hint that says it may be about your pain. It may be about your greatest wounding. And that really comes forward too. Now, the other thing I want you to work on this week and look at, when I say work on, it's kind of allow it to float to your consciousness. Forget everything I'm saying. It will come to you. And when I say it'll come to your consciousness, be in inquiry. Be in inquiry. And I think that that was, and I know I've joked about this, but you know, throughout the whole editing process, the line editor, copy editor come in and go, it's kind of like you can't be an inquiry, allow an inquiry or open an inquiry. I'm like, no, 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 be in the state of inquiry. Be in the state of anger, be in the state of love. See, part of the reason I teach it that way and when I work with people is just to bring forward the consciousness of our choice, that we're always choosing our states. And the more we become conscious of that, the more we can say, oh, that's not a place I want to be. And that supports the concept of neutral observer, which is a more advanced concept, but that becomes very, very valid in this conversation this week. So I really encourage you to look at the color reflection in terms of how things are showing up in your life. That becomes, again, a key. And it says this week for Wednesday, the journal journey. Let me just see. The fifth chakra reminds us of the legacy we're here to share with others. What's yours? How will you know when you succeeded? So that's what I want to ask you. How will you know when you've created the expression that you're here to express? How will you know? How will you know? And we'll cover that more next week, but I want to give that to you. The other thing I want to share with you is that the group exercise becomes very important in that if you can do this work with somebody else, it becomes a great feedback forum for new tools that you're adding to your tool belt. You know, if you can imagine that the reason I call this a toolkit is because you've got a tool belt you're wearing in life. And sometimes I think it's just, you know, what becomes valuable here is the idea that each tool that you have in your tool belt, you'll get to use. Now, that key is in the making a connection part, whether you do the solo or the group exercise. Now, as I say that to you, again, I know I'm talking about this a lot tonight, but it seems to be coming forward to me. The book, How to Read the Cards for Yourself and Others, at the very beginning, it gives you the tools that readers need. And that is the key to everything. I really feel like if you get those tools, it's going to be a game changer for you. And the reason I say that is because it's not just for readers. You're stepping into your own intuition, and that's valuable for you. And finally, of course, the idea of allowing your own inner mystic to come forward. You know, it's more a thing of tapping into and connecting with your own higher voice. And that's what this is. That throat chakra is really about plans. What will you fight for? What will you stand for? So I'd like you to take a moment this week and make sure that you write below, make a comment below about what are you willing to stand for? What will you work for where no one can stop you? Where will you choose to be unstoppable? And I will see you all next week when we cover the next fable, of course.